Hi guys, this is Emily Cupelli and I am very excited for today's video because I am guest designing for the TicTacToe challenge blog. This is the 18th challenge and I decided to go with the column in the middle, where I have to incorporate 3D elements, blues and greens, and aquatic friends in my card. To start my card, I decided to go with the Mermaid for You stamp set from Long Fun, and these are gonna be my aquatic friends. I started stamping my images on Strathmore watercolor paper using my archival ink in jet black. To color my images, I chose different shades of green and blue. For the green, I am using the Chubby Shutters and Forest Moss Distress inks. I am using them with some water and a watercolor brush to give my images a watercolor effect. Now, for the blue areas of my images, I am using the Tumbled Glass and Faded Jeans Distress inks. I also added a bit of the Cracked Pistachio Distress ink, which is a bluish green. To color my narwhal, I decided to add the Stormy Sky Distress ink to my palette, which is a grayish blue. I kept coloring my images until I was happy with the result, always adding the darker colors where I want the shadows to be. Just as a fun fact, today, September 25th, is my birthday, which made this post even more exciting for me. So I knew I had to make a birthday card, for which I chose these particular 3 elements to be able to do so. I wanted my card to be a birthday card, so I also colored some balloons and a little cupcake, which are from Gerda Steiner Designs. To color those, I used the same greens and blues I already used. Once I finished coloring my stamped images, I took a panel from my Strathmore watercolor paper and I colored it using my Faded Jeans Distress ink and a round blending tool. I added more ink towards the bottom to add more dimension and interest. Then I added some splatters of water and I blotted my panel with a paper towel. Then I added even more ink and after that more splatters of water. Working in layers like this added more variation and interest to the panel. I finished it adding even more splatters, but instead of using clean water, this time the splatters were a mix of the water and some faded jeans. While my little panel dries, I went ahead and I took another panel, this time out of regular white cardstock, and I die cut it using my Hills border die from Mama Elephant. This border has a stitch detail, but it is included only in one side of the heel. So once I die cut it, I simply rotated the die 180 degrees and I die cutted the upper panel again to get the stitch detail in both sides of my panel. Then I took an A2 card base and with the help of the lines in my trimmer, I stick my blue panel to it. Once I had my blue panel very straight in my card base, I stick to it the 2 smaller white panels I die cut before. Anyhow, notice that for the white panels I stick on top, I used some fun foam to add dimension to the card, since I am going for a 3D project in this card. Then I took 3 little pieces of my hand thick cord in natural, and I added a little knot to 2 of them and a little bow to 1 of them. Then I glued them to my balloons using some multi-medium mat. I would have done 3 little bows, but I wanted my 3 balloons to be together, so 3 little bows would have been too much for such a little space. Once they were dried and secured, I took the 3 strings together and I tied a knot. Finally, I glued them to the hand of my little mermaid. Notice that I already added a layer of my irresistible Pico embellisher in shimmer clear to each of the balloons, which is all dry now. Then I took my elements and I stick them to the card using some foam in some areas and some dry adhesive in others to add more interest to the 3D effects of this card. Since I forgot to stamp the tiara in the mermaid before I colored her, I stamped it after coloring her. Anyhow, now those little pearls look blue, but I wanted them to be white, so I used my Sakura white gel pen to add a white base to them. Since part of the challenge is to do a 3D project, I wanted to add as many 3D elements as possible. So I took my irresistible Pico embellisher again, and I added another coat of it to my balloons, to make them even more dimensional. Now I will use my liquid pearls in white opal to add little dimensional pearls to the tiara, and my stickles in clear rock candy to add some dimension and shine to the tail of the mermaid. I added some of the liquid pearls to the little berry in my cupcake. I guess it ended up being just a little pearl. Here I decided to add some little details to my narwhal using my irresistible Pico embellisher. What more 3D and dimensional than some droplets? So as you can see here, I used some of my colored droplets and glued them to my card using my multimedia mat. Once I had all my droplets glued to my card, I added another layer of my irresistible Pico embellisher to the balloons. This irresistible Pico embellisher not only adds dimension and a glossy effect, but also adds some really nice shimmer. For this card, I decided to stamp the sentiment in the inside of the card, where I stamped Happy Birthday using my Everyall stamp set called So Happy. Again, I wanted to challenge myself, so I wanted to add as many 3D elements as possible to these 3D projects, so I decided to add a little pop-up to the inside of my card. So notice that I stamped the sentiment to a different panel, not to the card itself. So I scored it 2 3/4 inches from the bottom. Then I added some masking tape to the top and the bottom of my scored lines, and I stamped some of the solid images in my stamp set using my Olive Grove and Teal Seal Memento Lux pigment inks, and I basically created another little scene in the inside of my card. Once I was happy with the stamped images, I let them dry and then added some of my tumbled glass and faded jeans distress inks. I added the tumbled glass in the whole area, for which I used a round blending tool, but I wanted to add the faded jeans a bit more controlled, so that I could get it only on the bottom of the scene. That's why I used a sponge dauber for this darker color. Once I removed my masking tape, I noticed that it was looking very smooth, so I decided to add some light splatters of water just to make it match a bit better with the distressed panel in the front of the card. Then I scored my little panel again on 2 3/4 inch from the top edge, and I sticked it in the center of the inside of my card, of course adding the adhesive only to the top of the upper score line and to the bottom of the lower score line, so that I could get my pop-up effect. I absolutely love how this card turned out. I think the 3D pop-up in the inside of the card added the perfect finishing touch to the 3D project. Also, it was really fun to figure out how to use only blues and greens in my card, but still keeping it interesting. And my adorable aquatic friends make this card just too cute and happy. I really hope you participate in this fun challenge too, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. A huge thank you to Kay for inviting me as her guest designer. I had a great time making this card for the challenge, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!